WFYI podcast brought to you by Bloomington, Indiana, an American college town offering food and drink, college sports, outdoor activities, live music, cool art, and good times daily. Everyone is welcome in Bloomington. More information at visitbloomington.com.
Are you interested in reaching the WFYI audience while supporting the programming you love? Become a sponsor today. Learn more at wfyi.org/sponsor.
This is WFYI News Now. It's May 16th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, lawmakers show interest in topics like school absenteeism, artificial intelligence, and homeowners associations, how carbon emission quotas work and how they impact communities. And there are an increasing number of projects that seek to revitalize the White River and its banks with both public and private investment.
We take advantage of all of these things and we tie them together into one cohesive, special place that couldn't be anywhere else. It has to be in central Indiana.
Those stories coming up. But first, 2 Indiana men will appear in court after being arrested on Capitol insurrection charges. James Bamer from Hope, Indiana, and Donald Moss from Elizabethtown, Indiana, were arrested March 6th for 6 charges, including civil disorder, assaulting or resisting officers, and entering a restricted building. Moss is facing an additional charge for forcibly interfering with an officer. Both entered the Capitol building twice and were in the building for a bit more than an hour each. Body camera footage also shows the two pushing against officers. More than 1,300 individuals have been charged with Capitol breach crimes. And Indiana lawmakers will explore school absenteeism, artificial intelligence, and homeowners associations, among other issues, during this year's legislative study committees. Study committee agendas are voted on by the 4 State House caucus leaders, 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. A topic needs at least 3 votes to be studied. The committees have generated far fewer recommendations and proposal legislation in recent years. House Speaker Todd Houston says he's urging his members to consider what they're trying to accomplish through study committees.
What needs to be done in this format, what can be done just by members doing other work, so that it isn't, frankly, a waste of time, but that something of value comes out of it.
One topic not on the study committee agenda is cannabis. Senate GOP leader Roderick Bray says lawmakers have delved into the issue the past 2 years.
It's not to say, however, that there won't be some people looking at that over the summer.
Study committees, which are open to the public, will begin meeting in the next few months. How do carbon emission quotas work, and how do they affect communities around the state? One of our listeners was curious. As Indiana Public Broadcasting's Violet Cumber-Weiland reports, one environmental advocate says local communities can often be burdened when companies around them emit more carbon.
Gabriel Filippelli is the executive director of the Indiana University Environmental Resilience Institute. He says the amount of carbon a company is allowed to emit is called a quota. And when they emit less carbon than they're allowed, they can sell remaining emission credits to other companies, allowing those companies to emit more carbon than their initial quotas allowed.
If you're thinking about the state of Indiana in particular, I think you have to be really sensitive about where those emitters are and what communities around them are being affected by that.
Filippelli says this does reduce net emissions long term, but can be difficult for the local communities that are experiencing higher concentrations of carbon. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Violet Cumber-Weiland.
And for our final story today, public and private efforts to transform the White River and its Indianapolis banks are ongoing through a variety of developing projects. As part of a series of stories about how the river is being reimagined, WFYI's Jill Sheridan sat down with Schmidt Associates CEO and Visit Indy board member Sarah Hempstead to learn more about their long-term goals.
What can the White River look like in Indianapolis? What can we do to develop it, to make it more of a part of the city? How did you become involved in this effort?
Well, I mean, really, the White River Initiative is a placemaking initiative, and I've been involved in that since I relocated to Indianapolis in 1998. When you talk about placemaking, you talk about what makes a place authentic, what makes it special, both for visitors and for the people who live and work and play here every single day, like me and my family. And around 2018, 2019, I was asked to join the Visit Indy board, specifically Tourism Tomorrow, which is the arm of Visit Indy that works on exactly that. You know, how do we look at long-range placemaking projects and make sure that there is energy and enthusiasm and visionary leadership there to make placemaking projects possible? Because one of the difficulties of big projects like that, like the White River, is they take a really long time. They need to span multiple administrations. They need to span multiple communities and governmental structures in order to make them happen.
Recently, there was a trip. City officials, private citizens like yourself went on a trip to Singapore to sort of see, I guess, pie in the sky kind of ideas. What did you learn? What was that like?
So it seems crazy, I know, to go all the way to the other side of the globe. But Singapore really is best in class when it comes to tourism dollars and waterfront development. So what they have done really over the course of our lifetimes is large-scale transformative projects that they built with the buy-in of their population. You could tell that everywhere. They are teaching, even at the littlest ages, why this kind of investment is important. They've taken their waterfront, they've cleaned it, so there's an eco story there that certainly we can learn from here in central Indiana. Most notably, there is a Gardens of the Bay project, which if you've seen Crazy Rich Asians, you have seen this project development. One of the most amazing botanical gardens I have ever seen, and they've used that billion-dollar tourism investment to spur visitors. They're one of the most popular spaces to visit in that area of the world, and also to enrich the lives of the people who live there every single day.
I have seen the movie. It is incredible. So when we're thinking about Indianapolis, our legacy with the White River, what are, some of those dream projects that we might aspire to?
Well, so that's what's really important, right, is not that we build our own gardens by the bay, because that is authentic to Singapore. It would not be authentic here, but that we work with the local communities that line the river, and we take advantage of the major investments that are happening right now, right, like the Alanco project, these major capital investments that are happening, along with our current eco initiative to clean the river, that we take advantage of all of these things and we tie them together into one cohesive, special place that couldn't be anywhere else. It has to be in central Indiana.
It is about that vision. Everybody would love to see the White River transformed in the downtown area. What is realistic and actual change that we could maybe see, in the immediate future?
Well, I think if you've gone to the White River last summer, you would have seen Beaumont Beach, the first of a trial of implemented experiences. You're going to see that area improved and growing. And that's a really cool story because it really was working with the residents who live there to make a place that is special and authentic. And then as the stamping plant gets redeveloped into more parkland, as the White River State Park jumps the river for the first time. This is the first time the White River State Park has been able to actually touch the water. Fun fact. You're going to start to see more opportunities for people and nature to interact. So you're going to see big initiatives, too, that give you some place to go when you're down on the park and at the water. And it's really going to be transformational. It's going to be totally different in 20 years than it is today.
Thank you, Sarah, so much for coming in to chat today.
Thanks so much.
That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by the following people who live in your community: Drew Daudelin, Kendall Antron, who composed the music for this podcast, and me, Abriana Herron. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.
WFYI podcast brought to you by Bloomington, Indiana, an American college town offering food and drink, college sports, outdoor activities, live music, cool art, and good times daily. Everyone is welcome in Bloomington. More information at visitbloomington.com.